Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and millennials are just
Annoying.
they're so full of ennui, right? They're just so listless.
They're so insecure of being alone.
They don't even care about their jobs. They don't. The coming robot takeover, fine with it, whatever. This interesting piece in New York Post about that. Some 2.5 million jobs could be at risk in New York City alone because of AI, according to one study.
That's a lot.
But and they talked to some millennials about the prospect of some of these service sector jobs being eliminated and them being replaced by robots.
Want to be replaced by golf carts? Just keep it up.
Yeah, bad catting will do it. 41% of 25 to 34-year-olds say they've been assisted by an automation program at work in 2019. That's nearly twice as many as compared to workers that are over the age of 54. One industry expert says today's younger generations are digital natives, immersed in tech from childhood, making them well acquainted with how to augment their lives with technology, and so they're less fearful of the robot takeover, even if it's a takeover of their job. Huh. Well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's encouraging in a way. Maybe they have a little bit a better and healthier perspective on innovation rather than being the proverbial candle maker cursing the invention of electricity. But I wonder then how docile they will be when, if and when America moves to some sort of Chinese-like social credit system. This was the topic of an interesting piece by Kelly Vlahos. She's the executive editor for the American Conservative, and she writes about this Tina Fey Allstate commercial.
Which one?
So
The guy pretending to be the St. Bernard puppy or pretending to be his mother-in-law?
I am not as well versed in all of the varietals of Allstate commercials as you, but whatever the Tina Fey one is, it invoked the idea of the China social credit system, and it recalls the story out during the holidays about monitoring of students on college campuses. There's an app that colleges are using to track students' movements on campus and give them points for good attendance. It's all gathered through like Bluetooth technology and monitored by school officials.
The premise of the commercial is she drives safe and they're monitoring her speed so she gets discounts on her auto insurance.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
Figured it out. It had nothing to do with the St. Bernard puppy.
will that sort of innovation and millennials being accustomed to them, not afraid of them, will that usher in a wondrous era of Big Brother social credit scoring? For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Kelly Vlahos, executive editor for the American Conservative. Kelly, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Dan and Amy.
Yeah, so I'm glad you picked up on this and connected some dots for us. I wouldn't have connected it to an Allstate commercial, but that's a good one. That's another good illustration of it. And you point out it's happening on a college campus, and this is what China uses, and it's not to accentuate the prospects of the individual. So, it sounds all well and good. Oh, I'm going to get discounts for being a good driver. I'm going to get points on campus for attending class. But there's some questions that should be asked about this sort of monitoring and scoring, shouldn't there be?
Yeah, absolutely. I had written about this, about the Chinese social credit system, which in fact is rolling out nationwide now. So when I wrote about it last summer, there was still pilot programs going on across the Chinese mainland. And so they were in different mediums. So some of the social credits were literally somebody going around with a pad and paper and talking to neighbors and seeing who was doing what, who was doing good deeds, who was fighting with their wives, and then assigning credit to them. And then there were more sophisticated processes in which, they had apps on their phones, and that the government was watching and giving and adding credits to their apps for, good driving, good deeds, paying their bills on time. Well, now there's going to be a nationwide program, which is all, electronic and aided by all sorts of massive, databases and surveillance that goes on. So when I wrote this, I said, there was a suggestion that this could roll over into the Western world at some point. And what you're seeing now, and the Tina Fey commercial is just a small piece of that, is that this will roll out through more traditional consumerist lifestyle apps, where people who are already conditioned to, like you said, having technology, help them. I forget the word you used, but it was basically a helper and assistant. They will be more amenable to having some sort of check on their behavior in order to get rewards, and that's the key. Is the reward. So these students on these campuses will be rewarded because their professors will see that they are in class and they're attending and they're doing their bit, and that they will get some sort of academic rewards as a result, and drivers get rewards for driving well. So I think in American culture, at least, it'll be the rewards that will entice people to go along with this program, as it is in China. But the goals will be different. The goals here will be selling things to you, conditioning you to buy things, whereas in China, they're conditioning people to be good communists.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where initially it may be conditioning you to buy things, but, the wrong people get in charge and the purpose can change.
Right.
Yeah.
So you think it's too big
Absolutely.
government? I mean, to have all this access? Like here at Salem, we have a vitality program. So when we go to the gym, Dan, when you go to work out, it tracks our time at the gym, and then you get what are called vitality bucks. So it's basically, Amazon gift card or a Nike gift card or Fandango.
Sure.
Then also our insurance premium is lowered.
Yeah, and also I have a score from Uber and from 52 other apps that I use.
You're scaring me now.
Yeah, right.
I'm genuinely scared. I'm not even being facetious here. What I'm hearing is that, I wrote this up as a blog post, the Tina Fey, my reaction to it after watching the commercial several times during the Twilight Zone marathon. So I'm only scratching the surface on how many apps are out there that give rewards for certain behaviors. And I feel like this is the creep that I spoke of, and I'm not some sort of Kreskin. There have been people who have been talking about this for years, and you made the great connection here with the millennial generation and younger, which is already so adapted to allowing Big Brother in the form of Mark Zuckerberg, to watch what they're doing, to monitor their habits and their behavior, that they would welcome something like this and open the door to possibly more nefarious interests like Big Brother at some point, big government coming in and abusing that system.
Yeah, and you have these products being developed. I mean, this is classic Chinese. Well, this is classic communist period, but Chinese communist perhaps specifically. It's being rolled out at the Consumer Electronics Show going on in Vegas, the Tech Expo. The Bellabot, developed by the Chinese company Purdue Tech. It's a robotic waiter capable of delivering up to 10 kegs worth of 10 kilograms. Kegs. 10 kilograms. I'm thinking about drinking. 10 kilograms.
Like a great reward.
Exactly.
Yeah, hey, where do I say
10 kilograms of restaurant orders to waiting customers. Its body is comprised of stacks of shelves carrying food trays, but the head and the face, they have the personality of like a crotchety feline. So think about this. You have this in your house. And you've got this robot cat waiter, and it's also, but it could also be a data and monitoring device that
oh my goodness,
in your home that you think it's just an amenity to make life easier, and really it's something that the Stasi wish they would have dreamed up.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a Twilight Zone episode really gone horribly wrong. What I get nervous about, and you brought up the sort of monitoring in the home. I was reading a piece this morning about how the Chinese people have reacted to their social credit system, and there was an aside in the piece that talked about people's dinner conversations being mentioned, and they were talking about how the future of America and how this might play out there. And I was thinking, wow, that reminds me of the Alexa that is plugged in my kitchen. And my husband and I have this constant battle where he's unplugging it and I plug it back in and he's unplugging it because he's convinced that they're listening in on our conversation. And about 6 months ago, I would have waved that off, but now I'm starting to really, how many times have you sat there and said something and all of a sudden Alexa perks up out of nowhere saying, I don't understand that. And you wonder how much they are listening, how much they are monitoring. They say they're not, and that they just have people on the other end that are like quality control or something.
Yeah.
But I'm starting, I don't think it's too tinfoily to maybe suspect that this thing is more two-way than we think.
I'm going to think globally, but act locally. I'm going to start an uprising against the vitality bucks at Salem here.
Stop. No, that's good.
So leave me alone on when my jazzercise class, for goodness sakes.
But the scary thing is, in the piece that I was reading was that the Chinese people, are, on the most part, and it's hard to tell because it's hard to poll there, obviously, they get punished for speaking the truth. But on the most part, they welcome the social credit system because they feel that overall it is designed to sort of build in moral and behavioral quality among the people. So,
oh yeah, who knows more about morality and quality behavior than the Chinese Politburo? I mean, this is a country that embraced the one-child policy for 35 years, recently just discontinued, and the brutality of that policy. So, I mean, in terms of, and I'm not trying to impugn the Chinese people as a whole, but that country is not anything we want to model anything we're doing after.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying that they're convinced that this is necessary because they embrace this sort of like paternalistic, goal of this. Like, I'm a good person, but my neighbor might need this extra sort of hand, to be a good person. Yeah. And they just assume that this is good for all of China, to have this sort of monitoring, this minding, by the government. And I'm afraid that might translate here as, well, I want to get reward for doing well, going to the gym or driving well or paying my bills on time. So what's the problem? If you don't want to, that's your problem, but I want to get the reward. So I'm afraid that there's going to be a similar conditioning here that you already see with people giving up their private information to Facebook all these years and not caring that Mark Zuckerberg knows more about you than your own mother, that we would slide into a similar situation because we're already conditioned to do so.
Sure. I mean, government minding to instill compassion. What could go wrong? Oh, boy. Kelly Vlahos, she is the executive editor for the American Conservative. You want to check out her column, which I'll tweet out, about this social credit system in America, the prospect of it. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're the best. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hold fast!
The best picture of the year is 1917, raves Forbes magazine.
We've got orders to cross here. That is the German front line.
It's a soaring tribute to heroism that's both epic and intimate.
We need to keep moving!
The best war movie since Saving Private Ryan.
There's only one way this ends. Last man standing.
1917. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. Now playing in select theaters everywhere Friday.
All right. I have to admit something. I haven't been taking Balance of Nature for 8 weeks, and I have been miserable all 8 weeks. My immune system is shot. I've gone from fever to